Well, welcome everyone to a special individual masterclass here on holistic sales and sales system. The great thing about this masterclass today, if you're joining me, is I'm going to be really going through the two halves of the sales process. The management side of the sales process, really the sales systems, the sales rhythms that you need to dive into in terms of tracking, process management, putting it all together. And we're going to be talking about the holistic content side of sales. How do we craft a really compelling sales script and really address that in a way that the mental health market needs? If you don't know me, my name is Joshua Brummel. I'm one of the co-founders of Therapy Flow. We've been working with therapists and counselors for over 6 years now, helping them grow and scale both cash pay and insurance. And I'm really excited to show you what I've prepared for you. So let's dive in. Number one is this kind of Venn diagram of sales content and sales process are sort of the two sides to the coin that need to be working together. You can have the best content in the world. You can say great things. It's often the case I hear from counselors. All my sales, when I get someone on the phone, go incredible, but they don't talk to very many people because they don't have much sales process. On the flip side, someone can follow a sales process with perfect execution. Sometimes you can have a great admin on your team that's very detailed oriented, very process oriented, but the sales content needs a lot of work if we want to increase conversions. Really, when I talk about a holistic sales process, what I'm really saying, and I know the word sales can feel icky or gross, but it's person centered instead of outcome dependent. It's person centered instead of outcome dependent. Bottom line is if that person wasn't here, if something wasn't missing, they wouldn't be here in order to be on this sales call and be looking for a service to help them. And I think we just need to remember that when we talk about this conversation of sales. When you go to a tire shop and you ask, hey, can you help me with fill in the blank? That's a sales conversation. When you go to a department store and they ask, hey, do you need any help? And you say, yes, no, that's a sales interaction. When someone calls you, emails you, and asks, hey, fill in the blank, that is a sales interaction. So I don't want to be too reductive and say, great, we don't ever need to make choices that are sales choices, but what you're not going to get from me is sales tactics or gross pushy process, used car salesman. That doesn't help your outcome. That doesn't help the patient outcomes. And that's why it's called holistic, because we're going to be talking about how do we do a sales process in a person-centered way. The first thing we have to think about is, does your service fit? Your client is coming to you with a mental health hole that needs to be filled with a service. And all you're trying to do on your sales call is try and see and help them understand with a lot of clarity whether what you provide fills their hole, whether what you provide matches up in the way that really makes sense. Does your service fit? The entire sales interaction is not to shove a yes out of them, to convince them to do something, but is to educate them and provide a structured process that helps them decide and come to a decision point on whether your service perfectly matches what they want and what they need, and if they want to take action on that. I use a bridge analogy for what I call a value-driven sales process, or a holistic, person-centered sales process. This is your prospect. You are trying to get them across the bridge. Now, what most people think should happen in sales is successful sales is getting a yes for your service. Successful sales is not getting a yes for your service. Let me fill this in for you. The intake of your client journey is really about getting them across the bridge with a service explanation, asking for the sale, your leadership. I'll talk about that in a second. Your words, but really your words, your sales interactions, however those happen, email, phone, website, otherwise, the goal is to get them to make a decision. And that decision will be yes or no. The goal is to get them a decision, and that will be yes or no. A successful sales process helps a client make a decision on whether the service is a good fit for them and they should say yes to it, or not a good fit for them and they should say no to it. A successful sales process is not when clients say yes. That's a successful conversion. Now, we can engineer our marketing to have better prospects that are more likely to say yes if they go through our sales process. But I think we just need to understand that, great, we now get to construct a sales process. One of the best things to do is what I call pre-handle objections. Really, this is pre-handling reasons why that person might discover within the sales conversation or sales interaction that they might not want to move forward with the service. How do we do this? Well, they're going to have all kinds of questions. They're going to have questions. How much does it cost? What does it take to get started? Where does this head for me? How soon am I going to get the results? Whatever the questions are and the objections are that you get in the middle and the end of your sales interactions and your sales and your intake calls, what's great is we can actually move those forward in the pipeline and try and communicate about those issues sooner. We can make short form and long form video content or written content and send that potential prospect an article to read when they book the intake call. We can make social media content that addresses why we're cash pay versus insurance. We can have a little video that's on the landing page after they book saying, hey, here's what the therapeutic process looks like and why we do intake paperwork and take insurance and all of that stuff. Frequently asked questions, nurture emails, lead magnets, thank you pages with follow-up comment, drip email campaigns. That seed of what questions do they ask and why are they not moving forward? Can we just move that upstream and put content in place beforehand to make it happen? Now, I want to move forward into tracking the client journey. And so this is a little bit more sales as a process. We'll come back to the content piece in a second. Really, I want you to have crystal clarity on how many new leads you're getting, the show rate on those leads, total consults taken, offers made, which is different than total consults. Let's say you have 10 conversations and you don't take Medicaid and you don't do cash pay. So 3 out of those 10 conversations were Medicaid. Well, you aren't making an offer for them for service. Or maybe you had 9 conversations. One wanted marital counseling, but you only do individual counseling, and the rest were individuals that were qualified. Great, you made 9 out of the 10 consults that you did. How many offers were made? Qualified people, right? Then how many new intakes came? And how many of those showed up to the first session? This will get you a long way if we track this. We can track it daily, we can track it weekly, we can track it monthly, quarterly, yearly. Obviously, once we're tracking it monthly, it all adds up pretty simply from there. If this much tracking sounds a little overwhelming, just start with a weekly or monthly cadence. For some of you that have a high volume or you have different admin taking calls on different days of the week, you're really going to want to track it admin specific for what the work is that they're doing. And then you're probably going to want it on a weekly and a daily basis so you can always get a clear snapshot of how your numbers are moving. We track it for 2 reasons. We track it so that way if the numbers start to decline in a certain direction, we can see that and fix the problems. Or we track it so we know if we have a marketing issue. Because if we get a bunch of new leads and we have a low show rate, we get a bunch of shows and we have a bunch of consults, but not very many offers are made, great, maybe we need different kinds of people showing up to the phone calls. Or if we make a bunch of offers and no new intakes happen, maybe what we're saying is wrong. So each one of these stages, if clients don't flow through to the next stage and the next stage that we're tracking, it's an indication that that's the part that we need to fix and improve. So I'm going to go through some software, the script, role play and practice, the close, follow up, the audit, and what I call the container of sales as I finish going through the rest of this content. First off, the CRM. Number 1 is we can track a lot of those stages that I just described automatically using something like a CRM. That way we can track the actions our admin are making, we can set reminders, and we can have a consistent history of the process. Really, a CRM, a customer referral management software, brings all of your referrals, all of your leads from any and all sources into a single piece of software, and we can automate some actions and have just really strong clarity on pipeline stages and tracking. I highly recommend if you have more than 15 to 20 phone calls or leads coming in a month, that you consider something like a CRM to organize it all. Therapy Flow has a HIPAA compliant CRM that might be a great fit for you. With that, though, is the consistency and history of admin success, of tracking, and a cool thing, re-offers is possible with a CRM, meaning, hey, in the last month, what about all the people who didn't book a call or get on the calendar as a consult or a client? Let's send them a bulk email or a bulk text message as kind of a final offer or a final re-offer. That can be a huge helpful thing. As we keep going, there's four major segments that are typically missing. I wish I could spend this whole session on building a script. Be in our coaching program. Come to my coaching call if you really want really good scripting help. But there's four segments that are typically missed that I want to talk about. Number one is rapport. Sometimes we just aren't spending enough time asking some general questions about the client. Sometimes we skip past this. We haven't built enough trust, and we just actually haven't gone deep enough. So what they say they need isn't actually what they need. We have an uncovered time frame. Just we might need to spend a couple more minutes here, especially if you're cash pay. Longer sales calls typically have higher conversions. It might not be possible to convert someone at the price point you want by only having 10 to 15-minute calls. And if you and your practice are at $200, $300, $400 a session, it's worth it for you to have a 30-minute consult than a 10 or 15-minute one if you can increase the conversions. From there, what I call the value takeaway. If you aren't asking after you explain your service, after you explain the therapeutic outcomes, this question, we're skipping a big step that really helps that person make a decision for yes or for no. And here's the question. Hey, Mrs. Jones, based off of everything I shared today about our service outcomes, our therapeutic results, our therapeutic support, however you want to phrase it, Mrs. Jones, based off of everything I've told you about the therapeutic support that we provide here at Therapy Practice, is this what you're looking for in terms of the type of help and support you need? They'll say yes or no. And then you follow it up with this question. Great, Mrs. Jones. What aspects or what specific parts of it seem most helpful and relevant? I want you to allow people on the call to verbally process, emotionally process whether all the things you just shared is actually what they want. And you'll see a higher conversion rate, but really a higher decision rate on the call when we leave space and breathing room for them to process the high volume information that you just put down. Now, the next piece is the ask. If we aren't directly verbally taking the leadership of asking for the sale, asking them to make a decision, we're also skipping a huge step. If you walk into a tire shop and you say, hey, can you help me with my tires? And they're like, I don't know. We help some people with some tires, but maybe can you figure out whether we can help you or not? That's not going to go well. A big part of successful sales, yes, is confidence, but is communicating from your perspective whether you can help that person or not. Communicating from your perspective whether you can help that person or not. You need to train your admin to have this confidence or you to have this confidence. It sounds like this. Mrs. Jones, based off of everything that you told me today, I think we would be a great fit to provide the support that you're looking for, and we would love if we work together. Let's talk about what next steps might look like and if it'd be a good fit for you. You need to communicate confidence, probably excitement even, and clarity that you believe that you can support them or your practice can support them with their therapeutic outcomes. And as an aside, if you don't believe that's true, well, then don't sign them on as a client. Disqualify them and tell them just as confidently, hey, this is not the place for us to serve. This informs their ability to make a decision. Now, then we have to handle objections. I think a lot of you skip past this part. They're like, oh, I need to think about it. And you're like, okay, like, or, oh, it costs too much. Or, oh, I need to check in with my insurance provider. What that's doing is they're trying to kind of put together something. They're processing the decision. There's something called looping in sales, which means you answer, you handle, you respond to the objection with something that would resolve it, that would move the sale forward. And then we ask for the sale again. A lot of people need 3 to 5 loops before all of their concerns. And if we stop and we don't respond to that concern and we just let them sort it out and we don't help them resolve it all, there's probably 3 or 4 more behind that that also need to be addressed. And we need to dig into those to make sure we've covered all the bases. Even if we say, hey, do you have any other questions? Do you have anything else you want to bring up? They'll be like, oh, no. But in reality, there's maybe 3 or 4 things, and we have to keep addressing and keep asking them to move forward. A classic one is, I need to think about it. The best way to handle that is, great, Mrs. Jones, tell me a little bit more about what you need to think about. What specifically are you processing in order to help make this decision? Great. Now we're going to actually unpack that live on the call. And if we really can't come to a close, we schedule a follow-up call. Talk about that more in a second. Now, whether it's for you or for your admin team, I highly recommend writing a full sales script and then bullet pointing all the major segments, rapport, service explanation, asking for the close, bullet point all those so we can kind of reduce it, but script out the full thing. And then role play and practice with your current admin, your new admin, and yourself about 50 total times the script. As crazy as that sounds, that's what I have seen that's needed to be successful in order to move the ball forward and really make sure your admin and your team are equipped to say the words fluidly. And this means all parts of it: the role play back and forth question, the objection handling, asking for a close. We need about 50 role plays to feel great. Here's the thing: do you want yourself or your admin to be practicing and making mistakes on a live call, or do you want them to be shooting blanks and playing target practice? Actually, do you want them to target practice before it's game time? 50 plus is about the volume needed to get really comfortable. So think about it. If you only role play with them 10 times, well, their next 40 calls are not going to be as good as if you had just committed to 50 role plays. And after that, it's kind of diminishing returns. Next is do call reviews. Almost every single therapy practice I talk to does not do cyclical call reviews, weekly, quarterly, monthly, annually. Here's the thing: people stop saying what you taught them to say. You stop saying what you want to say on your calls. Your calls and your sales will improve if you consistently do call reviews with your team. You record a call, they record a call, you guys listen to it and you unpack it and you see where you're going off script, you see where you're going off process, and you fix those things. And this process never ends. You do some call reviews, you fix some process, rinse, cycle, repeat. I'll talk about how often in a second, but do call reviews. And lastly, the close. I talked about this a little bit before, but bottom line, is this it? Is this the service you're looking for? Is this the support you're looking for? You have to ask that question before we talk about the logistics of price or sign up or anything else. And will you do it? We'd love to work with you. Would you like to go ahead and get started with booking that appointment today? You have to ask for the sale, the follow-up. Now, bottom line is when you get to the point and they aren't ready to make a decision, number one, I'll go backwards here, is scheduling it is the best tactic. And a lot of practices don't have this as a philosophy, but it's really, really helpful and essential that it sounds like this. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I totally get that you want to think about it. Typically, what we do is we just put another call on the calendar for later this week or next week, whenever. Typically, we just put another call on the calendar. That way we can hop on, answer any other questions you have, walk you through next steps if appropriate then. That's what it sounds like. What's really helpful with this is it's on the calendar. It creates a decision deadline for them, and it reduces the bandwidth of follow-up need if it's just on the calendar. So when you do follow-ups, hey, it needs to be more than just a check-in. Hey, just checking in. Have you made a decision yet? We should be trying to get them on the call or trying to answer any other questions. Doing 3 to 8 follow-ups post that call and then just kind of letting them go back to our list, totally appropriate depending on needs. Let's talk about the audit. When we're auditing a sales process, there's three major components. What's their close ratio? Hey, we've taken 10 calls. How many of those have converted into 10 new clients? 7. Great. We have a 30% or 70% close ratio. Are we happy with that? The call review. Are we reviewing calls consistently? And then when we do the call reviews, I put it into this box of checking the boxes. Is that person checking all of the boxes? Are we handling objections? Are we asking for the close? Are we building enough rapport? Top to bottom with the sales process script and the sales process in general, are we checking all the boxes? That's what you're looking for as a manager, is just skip steps first. Typically, our sales process is going poor because we're not checking all of the fundamental boxes. So we might sound great when we explain our service, but we aren't checking the box of asking for the sale and value confirmation. Great, that's going to screw the whole thing up. Or we do the value confirmation in the sale, but we don't ever handle objections. Or we handle objections, but that person didn't decide on the call. We don't ever schedule a follow-up call. Not checking the boxes kills the sales process, and that's what you should be looking for when you're trying to do an audit of your own sales process or of an admin's. Sales for your role. If you're the only one in your practice, you're both of these people. If you're the owner, the manager, you create the script, you do the audits, you do the training, you hold people accountable, you inject the energy. Salespeople need energy in order for them to believe and be excited for them to do their job. As a sales rep, consistency of following the process, practicing the script, checking all the boxes. That's kind of all we need. Now, using that bridge analogy, if you don't upkeep your bridge, it's all going to break and no one's going to want to be able to cross it or want to cross it. So here's what I recommend for doing a weekly one-on-one with either yourself to do audit reviews and capture and close ratio. If you have multiple team, if you have just one admin, your one-on-one and your team meeting is one and the same. If you have multiple admin, you do a one-on-one with all of them. This should look like about a 15-minute one-on-one where we're just going over numbers and making sure nothing is off. And then we do a weekly team meeting. Maybe we do some weekly training, some weekly check-ins, some highs, some lows. It's an admin team meeting for intake success. From there, we do also a monthly team meeting. Maybe that one's a little bit longer to address monthly numbers and so forth. I would say do a script review and role play at least monthly. This could also include the call reviews. You need to know if your intake or your admin are getting off kilter at all. So call review, script, intake, and then role play in order to keep the process sharp. That should be monthly. A key performance review. Are we hitting our numbers? Are we happy with our close ratio? All of that good stuff. Key performance indicators. Are we hitting the numbers? We should be, if things are going really consistent, if this isn't a brand new admin, we can really look at KPIs across a month and across a quarter. Then big training. I really recommend a larger, maybe 3 to 6 hour quarterly training with your admin to make sure they're following systems. They're dotting I's, crossing T's, they're doing the script, they're doing whatever. Invest in your admin so they never go backwards. And then a big yearly training too of some kind, maybe a half day, full day, where we're just investing in our team, their skills, their talents, our process on an annual basis. And then, of course, compensation review. You should be giving raises to your admin once a year to keep up with inflation, bonuses, whatever else. I'd say the longer they stick with you and they continue to do a good job. Most people underpay their admin. So they have high turnover for admin. If you can find a really great admin and pay them anywhere from $5 to maybe even $15 above market value or typical, even if you can provide benefits or something, you will have an admin for a long time because it will be a good role for them that they can make a good living off of, and they won't need to go and find another job. Having someone that gets to know your practice across multiple years can be a huge, enormous benefit and can actually really promote a lot of success in your practice. And a lot of that just rests in compensation and really good bridge upkeep structure that you're in charge of as a practice owner. My last question for you today as we wrap up is, where does your sales leave people? When we talk about a holistic sales process, this is a really important question. I most often hear when I run a sales call with a therapy practice owner, which is who I do most of my sales calls with these days, is wow, I'm so hopeful. I'm so excited. This brought so much clarity. I'm really looking forward to getting started. And that's what I'm hoping for. I hope to give hope. I hope to give clarity because those are gifts as someone is trying to grow their business. Hope can be a very powerful thing for the mental health role and the services you're going to provide, but craft a sales process that leaves people better off. Clarity. Wow, I have so much clarity on whether it's a yes or a no. I have so much clarity on whether you guys can help me or not. Clarity is a huge gift to give in a sales process and just requires succinct communication of where you're at and the potential of work that that client can do. Bottom line is communicate your value. What is it that you guys do great? Again, if you want scripting help, come to my weekly coaching call that's in any of our coaching program tiers. Number two is ask for the sale. Uh, don't skip this step, please. It's a sales call, whether we like it or not. And lastly, just be consistent. You and your team just check the boxes, track the things, do the work, and adhere to the script you've written. That's it, guys. I will see you next time.